Hey guys, welcome back to Drive Time Debrief. I'm Amanda,
I'm Laura.
And I'm Kendra.
and today we're going to talk about the reputation trap, why the career you built is the same one boundaries will save. So picture the physician everyone in the hospital wants on their team. He answers pages at midnight, never says no to an extra patient at the end of clinic, covers for a colleague's vacation without blinking. Every attending, every resident, every nurse would tell you the same thing about this person. Rock solid, always there. My favorite. You can count on them. That's a reputation it took years to build, and it's quietly killing them. Welcome back to the podcast today, and we're talking about something that doesn't get named enough in medicine, the way our reputation, the very thing that we've spent a decade or two building, becomes the reason we can't protect ourselves. We're taught that boundaries will cost us that reputation, and we want to make the case today that the opposite is true. Boundaries are what let the reputation survive.
Yeah, I think this is a good conversation. I've had a couple of clients in their sessions recently feel that maybe there is, it's almost like I visualize it like you're walking on that rope ladder bridge across the canyon and it's like one little heavy on this side, you're flipping right over. It's not quite as fragile, I think, as we think. I think we make a story up about it like, oh, it's too late to pivot. It's too late to build on my reputation. It's too late to change things now. Even if you're 15 years in, it's never too late. So we're myth busting today. We're gonna bust the myths today. And somewhere between medical school and our first attending job, somewhere we learn. Maybe we just made the story up. Maybe we learned it from attendings. I don't know. It got there somehow. That reputation is a one-time achievement. And even if you don't even go and work, so say you went to med school and rotated somewhere, then you went residency a different place, and then you moved again and worked somewhere different. Like this type of reputation, how you show up, and we talk about this a lot, is based on who you want to be. So you have an opportunity every shop you work in, every clinic you set up to be continuously building that reputation. And it's basically the part of you that you are consistently showing up as. So the part of you that earns trust with your colleagues, the part of you that, builds rapport with patients. It helps you get referrals, right? If you're a consultant or a specialist, you're a consultant, your referral base is based quickly on reputation, right? And you feel like at some point it's locked in, like you can't do anything about it. And while that may be true in a way, we just want to invite you to maybe open your mind a little bit. It's more than just your credentials. It's more than your fellowship, and it's more than where you practice. If you aren't quite convinced and you believe that you've locked in your reputation and that's it, every boundary that you make, it can kind of feel like it's getting threatened, that reputation. And if the reputation is a fixed asset, then saying things like, oh, I actually can't take that extra call this weekend. It's my daughter's birthday. Or I can't stay late tonight. I actually have plans, outside of the hospital. That can feel like it actually is chipping away at this fixed reputation that you might feel like you can't get back, or it erodes some part of you that you're used to showing up as. But that's not how it works. That's not how reputation works. Let me invite you to just stay with us here a minute. Really, it's not how reputation works in medicine or really anywhere else. Reputation isn't a plaque or a diploma or credentials. It's actually a practice. It's not something you built when you graduated in 2012, 2014, 2015, and you now protect it like it's a vintage museum piece, right? Locked up in a clear glass case for no one to touch or see, or for everyone to see but not touch. It's something that you're building right now every day you choose to show up and do the work you do. It's in this week's patient encounters. It's how you talk to your team. It's how you show up even when you're tired. It's every single day another brick, not a victory lap on the bricks you already laid. And so here's the part that we skip over. A reputation built entirely on availability without limits isn't actually a strong reputation. you may feel validated because people notice and you feel that you are, what do I want to say? You are reliable, they can count on you. And but if you are constantly building those bricks, they're actually built on a very fragile foundation, because the moment you can't sustain that pace, always saying yes, signing up for the extra shift, the extra call, eventually you're not going to be able to. That reputation will collapse as soon as you do. And so then the colleagues don't necessarily remember you as reliable. They remember you as a person that crashed and burned. And I'm only speaking of personal experience, who left and, or maybe had a total blanket moment, with a finger held high and walking out in flames. I don't know. But you have a defining moment, and it might have been because you just came off a string of night shifts, or you took that extra shift and you knew you just couldn't handle it. So the version of your reputation you were trying to protect is exactly the version that boundaries would have preserved.
Yeah. So I would say that the biggest person that you need to care about in terms of reputation is yourself. I think a lot of us we operate in a way that we're very concerned with what other people think. And of course we want people to feel like we're reliable. That only will come if we're reliable for ourselves as well. If we're showing up for ourselves. And if we don't, what Kendra just described eventually happens. If we're reliable for everyone else, but are not taking care of ourselves, we'll flame out and sometimes go out in a blaze of glory or a blaze of shame, depending on your perspective.
Or a blaze of 4-letter expletives.
Yeah. Yeah. So as we're talking about reputation, that's just something I just want to highlight, is that your reputation with yourself, with the ones that you love, the people who are most important to you, that's going to matter more than everyone else thinking you're reliable or such a team player at work. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of different example physicians. We'll call them Dr. R and Dr. W. They have different specialties, trained at the same era of time, same instinct at the start of their careers, which was to say yes to everything. And many of us were told to say yes to everything and never be the doctor who can't. So if that's programming you picked up, it's not a problem. Just being aware of that. Dr. R built her early reputation the classic way, always covering, always available, always the one who'd pick up the extra consult, answer her pager after 6 o'clock or whatever the extra mile was for her. And for years it worked. She was known as unshakable, but nothing about that reputation was designed to last, because by year 8, she was, and probably before that, skipping meals, missing her kids' school events, and over time, increasingly short and impatient with her staff, which was the opposite of the reputation she'd spent years building. And the story that started circulating wasn't she's so dependable anymore. It became she's burning out, or what's wrong with her. And it was being said by the same people who used to rely on her. The reputation didn't hold, it inverted. And why? Because she was not being reliable to herself and the things that mattered most to her. Let's talk about Dr. W, who took a different path, not instant or comfortable, but different. And around year 5, he started saying things out loud that felt risky at the time. I'm not going to take extra call anymore. I need 24 hours before I can turn around that pre-authorization letter. I'm going to finish this visit properly rather than double book to squeeze one more patient in. And as he started saying these things, he expected pushback, and he got some, but something else happened as well. And that's that his staff, his colleagues started describing him differently, not as the guy who'll do anything, but as the guy whose yes actually means something, because his no is real. And the patient felt it too. He was less rushed, more present. The truth is, when we operate this way, We find that difficult patients sometimes find a different doctor to go to. When boundaries are present, things get better. His reputation didn't shrink when he set limits. It got more specific and trustworthy because it was sustainable. And the difference between these two doctors wasn't work ethic or skill. It was whether they understood that reputation is something they had to keep building, including the parts that required saying no. And remember, we always like to say when we say yes to something, we're saying no to something else. So when we say no to something, we have space to be able to say yes or to be able to keep a previously made commitment. And so that reputation, he realized that reputation is something to keep building. And that's not just with colleagues, but it's with ourselves as well. And the converse of that is that if we're not building it, we're taking it down and just spending down what we had built up earlier in our career.
That's so good. So what does continually building your reputation look like? If reputation, why does this happen? I was fine until just then. So if reputation is ongoing rather than one time, then boundaries are not a departure from professionalism. They are one of the tools that you can use to build it and especially protect it. So a few examples of what that looks like in daily practice would be in how you communicate. A physician who tells a patient clearly and kindly, I'm not going to prescribe that today, but here's what I can offer instead, is building reputation in that moment as somebody whose medicine is thoughtful and not just, a drive-through McDonald's. It's not just reflexive. That's a brick. So another brick can be in how you protect your schedule. Blocking time to actually finish notes instead of taking on one more add-on isn't laziness. It's a statement about the kind of care you intend to keep giving. Colleagues and patients notice the difference between when you're rushed and rested. Even if they can't name it, that's a brick too. And actually, some of our subsequent podcasts are going to be on the difference between productivity from a busyness aspect and productivity from precision. Precision looks like this, where you're thoughtful and you do it once, but do it well. That's kind of the same thing when you have boundaries. You're able to do it once and do it well. And that's a totally different feeling. So another brick can be in how you handle being wrong or overwhelmed. So telling a colleague, I need a second opinion on this one, or I'm at capacity this week. Can you take this next mission? That doesn't damage your standing. Over time, it builds a specific kind of trust. The trust that comes from knowing your limits and being honest about them instead of overextending yourself and hoping that no one notices the cracks.
Yeah. Can I say too, these two are interesting because I also heard two excuses like I'm the only one that can do this procedure at this hospital in this area, whatever. So about that protecting your schedule. Okay. That might be facts. That might be very true, but there is still a way to, if it's non-emergent and you're not saving someone's life in the moment, to still protect boundaries, to protect your boundaries in your schedule, to still be very intentional about, okay, whatever I can fit in from 7A to 5P this day or whatever it is. So while you feel the urge in you to be like, but I'm the only one, there is still an element of your patients appreciating a physician who knows their limits. You can only do 5 surgeries per day before you need to go to the bathroom and take a snack or whatever. They want you to show up and be on your game. And the second one about being overwhelmed, I also heard some pushback from a client like, yeah, but they roll their eyes. My partner rolls their eyes or is nasty back to me. Well, you know what? It's because they don't have boundaries, most likely. And that sneer or that rolling of the eyes or the big sigh is because deep down, they're like, wow, maybe I wish I could say that, and next time maybe it won't be as hard. So those two, I feel like could get some pushback. I've already heard it, but I assure you that they're from places of sometimes you have to be the bravest and the most courageous to set one small boundary in your practice or your group. And then others notice it will be hard at first, but then they'll be like, wow, she can do it. I can do it maybe, or whatever.
Yeah, that is interesting. When nobody treats themselves as a human being, it doesn't give permission to anyone else either. So sometimes you do have to be the first one to do something a little different. I would offer that given the burnout stats, the way that we're currently doing things is not working. So potentially we should get creative and maybe exercise a boundary. I hear that too a lot with clients of like, you don't understand, I'm in a, underserved community and I'm the only person that can do whatever. We're talking right now about how you're ready to resign.
Yeah.
So
So
next
there's
week they're going to have 0 people. So like maybe there's a middle ground where,
Hmm.
where you can help some, you know.
boom.
Yeah, it's just brains are just hilarious. They get a belief and they just cling to them at the
They
expense
tell
of what
stories.
seems to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell
Yes,
lots of stories.
very convincing. And I will say, like, if you've been living this way, there is a cognitive dissonance of like it's uncomfortable to do something new. It also will bring up some regret sometimes of like I should have been doing this all along. Like blah blah. Blah. And I would offer that's not useful at all. But tomorrow is a new day, and you get to choose if you want to keep doing it the same way or you want to try it a little different. Okay, so we're continuously building our reputation. The next way you might be able to do it is how you show up whenever things are hard. A hard boundary conversation with an office manager, a firm line with a demanding referral source, a no to a request that doesn't fit your scope. None of these are one-time events either. They're small, repeated deposits in the same account. The account that says this physician practices medicine on their own clear, honest terms. None of this is a single defining moment. It's cumulative. So every week you either add to that account or you are gradually withdrawing from it, either by overriding your own limits to protect an image that you think is already finished.
And this conversation isn't, we're talking a lot about boundaries and setting limits, and it's not, it's not just about that. It's really about burnout, and this idea of living without boundaries is such a huge driver of burnout. We come into medical school with poor boundaries, which is why we could accept all the crazy things that we were told we had to do to become doctors. And then we got this fear of being labeled a bad doctor, or being labeled incompetent, or being labeled unreliable or lazy. And so that fear of damaging your reputation by setting a boundary is one of the most consistent and under-discussed drivers of physician burnout. It certainly, workload is an issue, but it is rarely only the workload. Is that workload plus the story that our brains tell us that setting limits and going home on time and saying no to that prescription, that's going to cause problems with our reputation, and it will undo years of who we've become professionally. And that belief keeps physicians just drowning by themselves and feeling so alone. And this is what I know Amanda and Kendra too would want to tell you, is that these issues are so common. We see this over and over and over again in our physician clients who are thinking like they're on the verge of quitting, or just completely unsure of how to keep going. And it is because they are still believing that they have to do all this crazy stuff to be a doctor. And they're on the verge of quitting. And it's like, no, you actually have more choice in the way you're living your life and the way you're practicing than you think. And you can learn to say no. Certainly early in our careers, it might make more sense to say yes to things to build the career. But when we keep doing that on into when we have kids and when we're tired and when we're burned out and frankly about to quit, that becomes completely the doctors who last, the doctors who actually enjoy practicing medicine more than just a few years are almost never the ones who never said no. They're the ones who figured out, maybe later than they wish they had, that boundaries are not subtracting from your reputation. If you think about the people that you work with who do leave on time, the ones who are pretty clear about what's acceptable and what's not in their patient population, and whether they're, easy example is, in emergency departments, patients will sometimes call if they want narcotics. They will call and find out what doctors are working.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a doctor who has held a boundary and said no, guess what? They don't waste their time coming in. And it's the same thing. So when we're saying yes to things that we don't want, we're going to get more of that thing. So let's figure out how to not do that. Have some boundaries that will help us to have a sustainable career. And they're not going to make us have a reputation of an incompetent doctor. When those drug seekers call the ER, it's not that they think those doctors are incompetent. They just know the ones whose boundaries they can run over. And so let's not be that kind of doctor. Let's be a doctor that acts out of principle, out of honesty, out of what we really feel good about offering to this career. So we don't feel like it's taking so much of the one precious life that we have.
Can I add something to this? All sounds really good, but you're going to have to ask yourself are you relentlessly judging people who actually have boundaries?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how I started. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that person's not a team player. I would never. Okay. When you're glamorizing self-sacrifice to the god of medicine, your brain, because of cognitive dissonance, is not going to let you start exercising boundaries. So catch yourself the next time somebody who has a healthy boundary and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that. I would never. Kids these days, they don't understand how we had it. All of that sort of stuff that comes up. You are welcome to keep that, and you will never figure out how to have your own boundaries because you are judging people so negatively who actually do have healthy boundaries. So what you're going to need to start doing is seeing how this is such a smart thing. Like, wow, those guys are so clever. They have the job and a complete life outside of medicine too. They have healthy marriage. Their kids know their name. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have to notice what's going on in your subconscious, because there's probably an excellent reason why you're doing this, and it is showing up in your judgment of others, and that's probably why you won't let yourself start doing it either. But if it's not working for you, that's actually what coaching is all about, like looking at what is going on underneath the surface and changing it so that you get the results that you want, because this isn't working for most of us.
Yeah, that's real good. I'm glad you brought that up because, and like we said, the examples that we gave today and, the foundation of, we talk a lot about boundaries because it is essential. It is one of the main things that underneath everything else drives us to, do things like leave and whatever. Like if you peel back all of the things and the struggles, starting somewhere with creating, one tiny boundary and just seeing what relief you may feel, or whatever the goal of that boundary was, actually feeling that and noticing it. And you're like, oh, wow, that was easy, and also the other hand, being able to, the idea of continuously building the reputation. So it's not a one and done thing. It is not that bridge where if you put too much weight on one side or the other, you're flipping over. It is a lot less fragile than that, and you can continuously build it. So this week, just think of one area, some things, maybe a small boundary. Maybe this has brought something to the front of your beautiful brain that is like, oh, that's what that is. That's a boundary. That's what I need to do. And you've been afraid because you're concerned with how those people might think of you, whether it's your group, your colleagues, or maybe the nursing staff or your office manager or your OR crew, whatever it is, just think about it. And if it is nudging you, then it may be an area where you need to be brave enough to just start and set that boundary, because you're saying yes and it is creating a resentment, or it's creating something in you that is not creating that peace, or it is not going to create a sustainable career. And then once you notice it, ask yourself this question: is protecting that old version of my reputation actually protecting my reputation? Or is it just delaying of the version of you that eventually burns out? Which goes out in flames with middle fingers high. I don't know, but just think about it, okay? And then if it is, if you're ready, just set that one boundary. Just start small. Don't see it as risky behavior. Seeing it as planting or building the brick in the foundation, and notice what might happen. Might be uncomfortable, but notice what happens. Notice that maybe it doesn't turn out like you thought. Maybe that biggest fear that you thought, the catastrophizing that you're going to do in your brain, actually isn't going to happen. And notice what actually happens. So that's it for today, friends. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this conversation helpful. And the best way to support us is to subscribe. So click that button now and leave us a rating and review, 5 stars, of course, because it helps other physicians find us and moves us up on the list. And if you do leave a review, take a quick screenshot and send it to podcast@thewholephysician.com, and we will send you a free ebook on emotional regulation, which is actually one of our most requested and impactful topics. And before you go, we have a gift that we have curated just for you. We've created a podcast fast track, because as you know, we've been doing this for a while and we have well over 200 episodes, and that can be kind of overwhelming if this is the first one you're listening to. So we've handpicked a collection of our most high yield episodes designed to help you jumpstart your journey to freedom from burnout. So head on over to www.thewholephysician.com / to discover your personalized path to wholeness and healing. And we'll include that link in the show notes. So thank you for spending time with us today. And until next time, you are whole, you are a gift to medicine, and the work you do matters.